Stories making headlines at this hour. First, the family reunions, and now Seoul's proposal to provide vaccines. South and North Korea made concrete steps towards thawing relations despite Pyongyang's strong protests against joint South Korea-U.S. military drills. До свидания, Sochi, hello, Pyeongchang. After 17 days of the Winter Games, the Olympic flame goes out in the Russian city, and the torch is passed on to Korea's resort town of Pyeongchang. And Ukraine's interim leadership vows to put the country back on course for the European integration now that Moscow-backed Viktor Yanukovych has been ousted from power. All these and more on Primetime News. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. It's Monday, February 24th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Moon Gun-young.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. A fresh round of reunions for war-separated families got underway at North Korea's Mount Kumgang on this Monday. And for more, we're joined in the studio by our Hwang Sung-hee.
Sung-hee, you returned from Mount Kumgang on Saturday, and you covered the first round of reunions for families. Now, on the second day, what do you expect to be happening over there?
Well, on the second day of the reunions, the families get a chance to really catch up and talk freely behind closed doors during the individual meetings, as they are conducted with no media or no government officials. Now, upon my experience at the first round of the meetings, I noticed that up until the individual meetings, the atmosphere was a bit subdued, since the decades of separation do make the families feel a bit awkward around each other at first. But after the individual meetings, the mood picks up and the families get a bit chattier during the group luncheon. And things start to get emotional and teary during the final few minutes of the group meeting on the second day of the reunions, because some families begin to worry about the next day, which is, of course, the last day of the event. The event runs for 3 days, but the families only have a total of 11 hours together, and on the final day, they only meet for an hour in the morning before they go their separate ways.
And how is the new round different from the first round?
Well, Sean, the first round was composed of 82 South Korean divided family members who applied for the event, and around 150 North Korean participants. Now, the new round was arranged by North Korea with 88 North Korean divided family members who were handpicked by the party, and over 350 South Korean participants. So the current reunion is much larger in scale. But all families at the reunion event have heartbreaking stories of their own. For one man at the second round of the reunion, the last time he saw his daughter was when she was only 1 year old, but now she has turned into a 61-year-old woman. This family is actually the only parent-child reunion at the new round of reunions, which is a reminder that time is running out for the aging divided family members to see each other again, and that there is a need for these meetings to be held on a regular basis.
Definitely, definitely. Now, Sung-hee, this is the first time in more than 3 years, 3 years and 4 months to be exact, for these kind of family reunions on the Korean Peninsula to happen. Now, and so far it looks like it's all smooth sailing. Can we take this as a sign that there are improving relations between the two Koreas?
Well, South Korea and the U.S. just began their joint annual military drills today, despite North Korea's continued calls for their cancellation. And it is very rare to see the family reunions, something that requires cooperation between the Koreas and the joint drills to take place at the same time. And it's quite surprising that the North has so far only criticized Washington for the exercises. North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency was prompt with its report on the family reunions, and it's also rare to see the isolated state make such reports on the day of the event. Now, on a more personal note, North Korean officials and journalists that I met at the reunion site talked a lot about the importance of reunification. Now, one of them even jokingly suggested that upon reunification, I should marry a North Korean man. So the atmosphere was quite amicable there.
All right. Well, Sung-hee, thank you so much for the coverage on that and for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
And perhaps in another effort to thaw relations between the two Koreas, South Korea has offered aid to North Korea to help with an outbreak of foot and mouth disease in pigs there.
If delivered, it would be Seoul's first government-level humanitarian aid to Pyongyang since 2010. The South's Unification Ministry said Monday that the offer includes a proposal for talks with North Korea to discuss the humanitarian assistance. The North State News Agency reported last week that the animal disease had broken early last month and has since spread, infecting roughly 3,200 animals. There are an estimated 100,000 Korean-American families in the U.S. with ties to North Korea, and with the current round of reunions, many have been left wondering if they will ever get the chance to reunite.
Well, Arirang's Hwang Sung-hee sat down with some of the separated families outside the divided nation.
There was a ray of hope for 88-year-old Kim Bong-gun when the two Koreas agreed to proceed with reunions for families separated since the Korean War earlier this month. More than 60 years have passed since Kim last saw his sister, brother-in-law, and cousin, who was in kindergarten when he fled North Korea.
I missed him so much. I can still clearly remember my cousin's face. She used to follow me and hold my hand when I walked her to kindergarten.
His faint hope, however, quickly flickered out. Including Kim, an estimated 100,000 Korean-American families have ties to North Korea, but this time only 170 families from the two Koreas were allowed to meet their long-lost relatives. Many of the separated Korean-American families live in Southern California, which has the largest population of Koreans outside of the divided peninsula. For them, Cha Chang-jun, a member of the National Unification Advisory Council of Los Angeles, says there's not much hope for a reunion anytime soon.
There are hundreds of thousands of separated families in South Korea, and just for them to take a trip to the north to meet their families will take decades. I don't think people like me in the United States will have a chance.
Although Korean Americans are able to take a private trip to the north to meet their families using their U.S. citizenship, not many consider it a feasible option.
There are organizations that help Korean Americans visit North Korea to meet their families, but it costs a lot of money.
People in the Korean American community that have families in the north are hoping that the reunions led by the two Koreas take place on a regular basis and on a larger scale. Pyongyang, however, has a record of unilaterally calling off scheduled family reunions whenever it has a bone to pick with South Korea and the U.S.
I am now almost 90 years old. I don't have many days left. I really hope to see my family before I die.
Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News, Los Angeles.
Meanwhile, back here in this country, South Korea and the U.S. have kicked off their annual joint military exercises despite vocal opposition from North Korea.
But this year's drills may be slightly toned down in a nod to the recent progress in inter-Korean relations. Arirang News' Kim Hyun-bin has this report.
Over 5,000 U.S. military personnel are taking part in this year's joint South Korea-U.S. military exercise, Key Resolve. Key Resolve, which runs from this Monday to March 6th, is a defensive computer-simulated drill that aims at enhanced command and control of all units around the nation in a wartime scenario.
As we said in our official announcement, Korea-U.S. will start its Key Resolve and full legal exercise as planned on February 24th.
For the first time, this year's exercise includes training to counter all stages from preparation to launch of Pyongyang's weapons of mass destruction as part of the Allies' deterrence strategy. 7,500 U.S. troops are taking part in a series of joint and combined field training exercises dubbed Full Eagle, which also start Monday and run through April 18th. Last year's exercises involved 10,000 U.S. troops. U.S. aircraft carriers and stealth bombers that were used in 2013 have been left out this time to avoid provoking North Korea. Pyongyang has remained comparatively quiet about this year's exercises, choosing to refrain from threatening to attack the South, as it has done in previous years. Keeping the steadily improving progress in the inter-Korean relations in mind, South Korea's military has said it will not heavily promote the drills, nor will it engage in any other acts that could anger its northern neighbor. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, shifting our focus, achieving President Park Geun-hye's goals of creating more jobs and balancing the economy will require a more balanced economic structure.
To that end, plans to nurture some 100,000 small and medium-sized export-driven businesses by 2017 were released on Monday. They came during status reports to President Park by the Trade Ministry, the Small and Medium Business Administration, and the Agriculture Ministry. President Park stressed the importance of removing unnecessary regulations to boost the economy, saying that they hold back creative young people from opening up businesses. She also called for securing more funds to foster more SMEs. Last week's building collapse in Gyeongju that killed 10 people shook the nation and caught the attention of the government, which is now taking steps to prevent a similar recurrence.
Lawmakers were told about those steps on this Monday during a parliamentary Land and Transport Committee hearing. Our Kim Young-gil reports.
The Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport said his organization is doing all it can to ensure that incidents such as last week's roof collapse in Gyeongju will never happen again.
The ministry is doing all it can to prevent such accidents from happening again. We're reviewing building safety codes and revising the construction regulations for buildings with lightweight steel frames.
The collapse left 10 university students dead and more than 100 buried. The government said it will inspect more than 40 public institutions in the eastern part of Gangwon-do province, which had been hit with heavy snow in the days leading up to the collapse. The minister's comments were part of a briefing by top officials from the Land Ministry at the National Assembly on this Monday. Lawmakers also got a briefing from the head of the agency overseeing a project to relocate government ministries and agencies to the new administrative city of Sejong.
The second phase of the relocation was successfully completed last December. This year will be the third and final phase in which more state agencies will move to Sejong City. We will do our best to bring about a smooth transition.
He said he expects the population to increase to 80,000 by the end of the year from the current 30,000. The Land Ministry also said it will push to reduce the debt held by public corporations by roughly $11 billion this year and $22 billion by 2017. To do that, they plan to sell off the corporation's assets and reform lax management practices. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Days of sports drama. The 22nd Winter Olympic Games staged in the Russian resort city of Sochi has come to a close.
Our Olympics correspondent who just returned from Sochi joins us for a wrap-up of the 2014 Winter Games. Welcome back.
It's good to be back home. You know, Sochi 2014, the most expensive Olympic Games in history, with the most medals up for grabs, ended this morning Korea time in a dramatic fashion. From Kandinsky to the Bolshoi Ballet, the closing ceremony was a chance for Russia to show off its rich culture. Thanks in part to naturalized short track skater Victor An, known here in Korea as An Hyun-soo, and 3 gold medals and a bronze, Team Russia ended the Winter Games on top with 13 gold medals and 33 overall. Team Korea, however, failed to reach its initial goal of finishing in the top 10 for the 3rd consecutive Winter Games with at least 4 gold medals. They fell short by 1 gold, which many believe should have been Kim Hyun-a's in figure skating latest single. We'll get to that issue in a bit. With the exception of the silver medal that came from the men's team pursuit in speed skating on Saturday, all of Korea's medals came from the women, starting with Lee Chang-hwa's first gold in women's 500-meter speed skating. We also saw multiple medalists in women's short track speed skating for a total of 5 medals, including the 3,000-meter relay.
So from beginning to end, the Sochi Winter Olympics had its share of controversy.
That's right, from an Olympic circle that fizzled out during the opening ceremony to some unfinished facilities, the Winter Games was filled with more than enough negative stories. But nothing tops what happened in the Winter Olympics' most watched and coveted sport, the figure skating ladies singles. From the short program, Kim Yeon-ha skated a flawless program and led the pack, but by a small margin. In the free skating, Kim's score on the clean performance was 5 points lower than Russian Adelina Sotnikova, who stumbled on a jump but was backed by home fans filling in the Iceberg Skating Palace. Over 1 million fans have signed a petition asking that the gold be returned to over Kim, and even the foreign press and former Olympians have expressed disbelief about this result. But the Queen did not object and left the ice with grace, as the current judging system in the sport can hardly be overruled.
Whether I accept it or not doesn't make any changes to the result. I'm satisfied with the fact that it's over and that I performed well on the ice.
Well, we're all hoping for more fair and just Olympic Games in the future. And then which brings us to the Pyeongchang Olympics in 4 years. We saw the Olympic torch being passed from Sochi to Pyeongchang at the closing ceremony.
Right, in a form of 8 minutes show, which was after the Olympic flag was handed over to Pyeongchang, with soprano Cho Soo-mi, jazz vocalist Na Yoon-sun, and singer Lee Seung-chul singing a medley of the traditional Korean song Arirang. Pyeongchang laid out its vision, the new horizon, heading toward 2018. Children who participated in Pyeongchang's Dream program, which helped them experience snow sports at Korea's Alpine City, also performed to the theme, A Journey Together. And it's not just Pyeongchang's organizing committee that learned something from Sochi. During the 2014 Games, we saw a number of young up-and-comers debut, which only makes the prospects for Pyeongchang 2018 even brighter. That includes the women's curling team, the freestyle skiers, bobsleighers, and everyone else who experienced the Olympics this year, who are now aiming for a podium finish at the Winter Olympic Games at home turf.
All right, Ji-sun, thank you so much for all your Olympic coverage, both over in Sochi and from here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch the game here at home in 4 years.
It's been a tumultuous few days for the people of Ukraine. In the latest developments, Russia has recalled its ambassador to the country over the interim government's plans to forge closer ties with the European Union.
Meanwhile, authorities have issued an arrest warrant for ousted President Viktor Yanukovych for the mass murder of peaceful citizens. Our Paul Yi has more.
Ukraine's new interim president, Alexander Turchinov, has vowed to chart a course towards European integration. Russian-backed President Viktor Yanukovych was removed from power by parliamentary vote on Saturday, marking a new chapter in the crisis-stricken nation. Turchinov said MPs had until Tuesday to form a new national unity government and that it would be willing to build relations with Russia in a new and fair partnership. Ukraine is a country in transition and could have a new president by the summer. The nation's parliament has decided to bump up the presidential election by almost a year to the end of May. In other developments, authorities issued an arrest warrant for ousted President Yanukovych and other officials on Monday on charges of the mass murder of citizens during protests. Yanukovych's whereabouts are currently unknown. Amid the rapidly changing political situation, Russia denounced the removal of Yanukovych, recalling its Kiev ambassador and threatening to freeze a $15 billion bailout package. On Sunday, European allies and the United States warned Russia not to send its forces into Ukraine.
That would be a grave mistake. It's not in the interests of Ukraine or of Russia or of Europe or the United States to see the country split.
But as dawn broke over Independence Square in Kiev early Monday, exhausted Ukrainians paid their respect to the hundreds who died in violent protests over the past 2 weeks.
Yes, I hope there will be changes and everything will be normal. That's what we are standing here for, and that's what people died for.
Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Moving on to another country in a tumultuous leadership transition, Egypt's interim government has stepped aside to make way for new elections.
We'll take a look at the latest developments out of Egypt and the rest of the world with our Yudian, who's standing by at the news center. Now, Lian, so why is the Egypt's interim government stepping down?
Hi guys, Egypt's interim Prime Minister Hassan Beblawi did not give a reason for the move when he announced his resignation in a televised address on Monday. But according to an official, the step was to emphasize that the cabinet backs Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's run for president. Top military chief al-Sisi, who is widely popular and has no serious rivals, is soon expected to step down from his post and declare his candidacy for president. An election is to take place by mid-April. The world's most wanted Mexican drug lord was arrested on Saturday, and the attention is now on which country will get to try him first. U.S. prosecutors in New York are requesting the extradition of Joaquin Guzman, also known as El Chapo, from Mexico, so he can face trial in the United States. But since the capture is being hailed as Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto's biggest achievement to date, the process is expected to be a long one.
It's a milestone. It's a hit, the hardest hit that President Enrique Peña Nieto has had. It's not Michoacán. It's not the reforms which have taken place. It's the capture of the world's #1 criminal.
Now, the organization that Guzman heads, the Sinaloa cartel, is believed to have smuggled billions of dollars worth of drugs into the U.S. The oldest survivor of the Holocaust has died just about a week before a documentary about her life was up for an Oscar. Alice Hurt Summer died Sunday at the age of 110 years old. She was confined to a concentration camp in Germany during World War II and lost most of her family and friends during the Holocaust. But she said music saved her life because she was allowed to perform piano for the Nazis that held her.
Music is in the first place of art. It brings us on an island with peace, beauty, and love.
The film is up for Best Short Documentary at next Sunday's Academy Awards. Now that's all from me for now, and I'll see you back here tomorrow with the stories making headlines around the world.
Good evening and welcome to Sports. I'm Stephen Che. Well, let's start in Sochi, or the Sochi Games, or rather the end of them, as the torch has now been passed to Pyeongchang for the 2018 Winter Games. But back to Sochi for now. We're going to talk about the Korean-born Russian national, Victor An, or An Hyun-soo, who cemented his place as a top performer there. After warming up with a bronze in the 1500-meter race, he went on to earn Russia's first gold in short track with the 1,000-meter win, as well as 2 more golds in the 5,000-meter or rather 500-meter and 5,000-meter relay races. Historically speaking, he became the first to win gold medals in all 4 Olympic short track events. And moving on to golf, or the PGA rather, we start with the WGC Accenture Match Play Championship, which crowned a new champion. And in the last one-on-one of the tournament, Jason Day outlasted 2 beautiful par saves by Victor Dubuisson to win with a 4-foot putt on the 23rd hole. And with the trophy and the $1.6 million prize, the 26-year-old Aussie jumped to 4th on the world rankings. Now we go on to the LPGA. A Swede has emerged as the winner at the Honda LPGA Thailand to beat out the star-studded field. And it was Anna Nordqvist who pulled away as number 1 and never relinquished the lead, even as the top-ranked ladies golfer Park In-bi made a rush up the leaderboard. Park finished 2nd after a stellar final round in her first start of the season. And ending off, FIFA President Sepp Blatter. He doesn't like cheating or wasting time on the pitch. That's why he's saying in his weekly blog that the leagues should use video replays and enforce existing rules to punish offenders, even if it's after the match. Meanwhile, FIFA says that at the Brazil World Cup, players will be prohibited from using social networking services or wearing headphones that are not made by official sponsors, citing marketing issues. And that does it for me in sports. This has been Stephen Che. I'll check you back at midnight for the latest from the world of sports.
It was a smoggy day here in Seoul, and even those without respiratory problems could be feeling the effects.
Well, for more, let's turn to our Kim Bo-kyung. Bo-kyung, just so how bad was it out there today?
Well, guys, fine dust watch is still in effect in Seoul. Normally, we would get about 40 micrograms per cubic meter of fine dust. However, readings say that Seoul is currently seeing 168 micrograms per cubic meter. In the southwestern city of Jeonju, levels have soared to 219 micrograms. So it is imperative that children and the elderly wear masks specifically made to keep out the fine dust. As for the weather, we're currently seeing clear skies across the map. And tomorrow, most parts of the country will start off the morning at around -1 degrees before jumping to the low to mid-teens in the afternoon. So make sure you don't catch a cold. Now, taking a look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul reaches 12 degrees while cities down south hit the mid-teens. As for other regions, Daejeon and Jeju peak in the mid-teens while Dokdo tops out at 10. Back to you guys.
Well, thank you, Bo-kyung, for that. And that is our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Moon Gun-young in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.